Good evening from a sacred space at Titania's realm. I've decided that you have all arrived on a very special night and to do a reading from a very magical and wonderful poet, T.S. Eliot. This is my very ancient copy that was bought in my brief sojourn at university as a 17-year-old girl. And I was reminded recently of the occult attachment to this writer and his genius. So I thought I would read the Wasteland to you. Now, I don't read Latin, so please bear with my pronunciation. Might be very poor. I might even skip it because it's got Greek and I can't read that at all either. Yes, I think I will skip that. I can basically sort of cobble the Latin together, but the Greek is in Greek writing, and I have no idea how to pronounce that. So I won't make a almighty tosser of myself, trying to make myself out to be more brilliant than I actually am. I'm a cunning linguist, but only in few fluencies, people. So we'll skip that because it just makes me look like a right bollocking wanker if I attempt to read that. I can kind of read the Latin bit though. Nam sibilum quidem culmus ego ipse oculus meus vidi in ampulla pendere et cum illi pueri deserent. Then we have the Greek. Respondebat illa, and then Greek. For Ezra pound il melior fabro. So you see, I decided to be a wanker and attempt it anyway because it's my spirit, you understand. My spirit. I do not accept failure easily, even though failure keeps accepting me. Never mind, people. I have also beside me my trusty copy of The Golden Bough, which I also bought as a young 17-year-old. And I have been watching Thomas Sheridan videos. Thomas Sheridan and I don't always meet eye to eyes. Very transphobic and sometimes a bit xenophobic too. But I get why he's freaking out, because Ireland is in a sorry state of affairs at the moment. Not because of the trans movement that he claims to be a major part of the problem, but just that they're invaded. Well, every country on earth now is invaded by something dark and oppressing and incomprehensible. So us occultist types, those of us who study magic, are bringing out our tomes and seeking comfort in ancient knowledge that behooves us, even just to have that energy beside us, comforts us, that we are surrounded by our ancestors that love us and the ancient gods who will once again reclaim our individual nations, countries on earth, and fight back this transhumanist, weird fucking epoch we find ourselves into. So I'm not, transgender phobic, but I am transhumanist. Antipathy I have towards transhumanism, because when you seed your own human mortal souls and your own human mortal bodies, there at the edge of the known world be dragons that you may not have even dreamed of in your wildest fucking nightmares, people. So hold on to your individuality, your souls, or what's left of them, for as long as you can. Mama T has spoken. Mama T intends to be holding on very, very tightly to her, the residue of her neshama. So, The Wasteland, 1922. The opening line, Chapter 1, The Burial of the Dead. And why I giggled is April was my birthday month, so I had to kind of giggle at that. So let us begin. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers. Summer surprised us, coming over the Starnberger See. With a shower of rain, we stopped in the colonnade and went on in sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank coffee and talked for an hour. Bin gar keine Russin, stamm aus Litauen, echt Deutsch. And when we were children, staying at the Archduke's, my cousin's, he took me out on a sled, and I was frightened. He said, Marie, Marie, hold on tight. And down we went. In the mountains, there you feel free. I read much of the night. That should say, I read much of the night and go south in the winter. What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of the stony rubbish, Son of Man? You cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water. Only there is shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning striding behind you, or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. Frisch weht der Wind der Heimat zu, mein Irisch Kind, wo weilest du? You gave me hyacinths first a year ago. They called me the hyacinth girl. Yet when we came back late from the hyacinth garden, your arms full and your hair wet, I could not speak and my eyes failed. I was neither living nor dead, and I knew nothing. Looking into the heart of light, the silence, Ert und leer das Meer, which in English means empty and desolate, the sea. Madame Sosostris, famous clairvoyante, has a bad cold, nevertheless is known to be the wisest woman in Europe, with a wicked pack of cards. Here, said she, is your card, the drowned Phoenician sailor. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Look. Here is Belladonna, the lady of the rocks, the lady of situations. Here is the man with 3 staves, and here the wheel. And here is the one-eyed merchant, and this card, which is blank, is something he carries on his back, which I am forbidden to see. I do not find the hanged man, fair death by water. I see crowds of people walking around in a ring. Thank you. If you see dear Mrs. Equitone, tell her I bring the horoscope myself. One must be so careful these days. Unreal city, under the brown fog of a winter dawn, a crowd flowed over London Bridge, so many. I had not thought death had undone so many. Sighs, short and infrequent, were exhaled, and each man fixed his eyes before his feet, flowed up the hill and down King William Street, to where St. Mary Woolnot kept the hours with a dead sound on the final stroke of 9. There I saw one I knew and stopped him, crying, "Stetson, you who were with me in the ships at Mylay, that corpse you planted last year in your garden, has it begun to sprout? Will it bloom this year? Or has the sudden frost disturbed its bed? Oh, keep the dog far hence, that's friend to men, or with his nails he'll dig it up again. You hypocrite lecteur, mon semblable, mon frère." Chapter 2. A game of chess. The chair she sat in, like a burnished throne, glowed on the marble where the glass, held up by standards wrought with fruited vines, from which a golden Cupidon peeped out. Another hid his eyes behind his wing, doubled the flames of 7-branched candelabra, reflecting light upon the table as the glitter of her jewels rose to meet it. From satin cases poured in rich profusion, in vials of ivory and coloured glass, unstoppered lurked her strange, synthetic perfumes, unguent, powdered or liquid, troubled, confused, and drowned the sense in odours stirred by the air that freshened from the window. These ascended in fattening the prolonged candle flames, flung their smoke into the laquaria, stirring the pattern on the coffered ceiling. Huge seawood fed with copper, burned green and orange, framed by the coloured stone, in which sad light a carved dolphin swam. Above the antique mantle was displayed, as though a window gave upon the sylvan scene, the change of Philomel by the barbarous king, so rudely forced. Yet there the nightingale filled all the desert with inviolable voice, and still she cried, and still the world pursues, jug jug to dirty ears and other withered stumps of time were told upon the walls. Staring forms leaned out, leaning, hushing the room enclosed. Footsteps shuffled on the stair. Under the firelight, under the brush, her hair spread out in fiery points, glowed into words, then would be savagely still. My nerves are bad tonight. Yes, bad. Stay with me. Speak to me. Why do you never speak? Speak. What are you thinking of? What thinking? What? I never know what you are thinking. Think. I think we are in Rat's Alley where the dead men lost their bones. What is that noise? The wind under the door. What is that noise now? What is the wind doing? Nothing, again nothing. Do you know nothing? Do you see nothing? Do you remember nothing? I remember. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Are you alive or not? Is there nothing in your head? But, oh, 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 that Shakespearean rag. It's so elegant, so intelligent. What shall I do now? What shall I do? I shall rush out as I am and walk the street with my hair down so. What shall we do tomorrow? What shall we ever do? The hot water at 10, and if it rains, a closed car at 4, and we shall play a game of chess, pressing lidless eyes and waiting for a knock upon the door. When Lil's husband got demobbed, I didn't mince my words, I said to her myself, hurry up, please, it's time. Now Albert's coming back, make yourself a bit smart. He'll want to know what you done with that money he gave you to get yourself some teeth. He did, I was there. You have them all out, Lil, and get a nice set. He said, I swear I can't bear to look at you. And no more can't I said, and think of poor Albert. He's been in the army 4 years. He wants a good time. And if you don't give it him, there's others will, I said. Oh, is there? She said. Something of that, I said. Then I'll know who to thank, she said, and gave me a straight look. Hurry up, please, it's time. If you don't like it, you can get on with it, I said. Others can pick and choose if you can't. But if Albert makes off, it won't be for lack of telling. You ought to be ashamed, I said, to look so antique, and her only 31. I can't help it, she said, pulling a long face. It's them pills I took to bring it off, she said. She's had 5 already and nearly died of young George. The chemist said it would be all right, but I've never been the same. You are a proper fool, I said. Well, If Albert won't leave you alone, there it is, I said. What you get married for if you don't want children? Hurry up, please. It's time. Well, that Sunday Albert was home. They had a hot gammon, and they asked me in to dinner to get the beauty of it hot. Hurry up, please. It's time. Hurry up, please. It's time. Good night, Bill. Good night, Lou. Good night, May. Good night. Ta-ta. Good night, good night. Good night, ladies. Good night, sweet ladies. Good night. Good night. Chapter 3, The Fire Sermon. The river's tent is broken, the last fingers of leaf clutch and sink into the wet bank. The wind crosses the brown land unheard, the nymphs are departed. Sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song. The river bears no empty bottles, sandwich papers, silk handkerchiefs, cardboard boxes, cigarette ends, or other testimony of summer nights. The nymphs are departed, and their friends, the loitering heirs of city directors, departed, have left no addresses. By the waters of Le Mans I sat down and wept. Sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song. Sweet Thames, run softly, for I speak not loud or long. But at my back in a cold blast I hear the rattle of the bones and chuckle spread from ear to ear. A rat crept softly through the vegetation, dragging its slimy belly on the bank while I was fishing in the dull canal. On a winter evening round behind the gas house, musing upon the king, my brother's wreck, and on the king, my father's death before him. White bodies naked on the low damp ground, and bones cast in a little low dry garret, rattled by the rat's foot year to year. But at my back, from time to time, I hear the sound of horns and motors, which shall bring Sweeney to Mrs. Porter in the spring. Oh, the moon shone bright on Mrs. Porter and on her daughter. They wash their feet in soda water. Et oh, ces voix des enfants chantant dans la coupole. Twit, 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 jug, 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 jug. So rudely forced, terreux. Unreal city under the brown fog of a winter noon. Mr. Eugenides, the Smyrna merchant, unshaven, with a pocket full of currants. CIF London, documents at sight, asked me in demotic French to luncheon at the Cannon Street Hotel, followed by a weekend at the Metropole. At the violet hour, when the eyes and back turn upward from the desk, when the human engine waits like a taxi, throbbing, waiting, I, Tiresias, though blind, throbbing between two lives, old man with wrinkled female breasts, can see at the violet hour, the evening hour that strives homeward and brings the sailor home from sea. The typist, home at tea time, clears her breakfast, lights her stove, and lays out food in tins. Out of the window, perilously spread her drying combinations, touched by the sun's last rays, on the divan piled at night her bed, stockings, slippers, camisoles, and stays. I, Tiresias, old man with wrinkled dugs, perceived the scene and foretold the rest. I too awaited the expected guest. He, the young man carbuncular, arrives, a small house agent's clerk with one bold stare, one of the low on whom assurance sits as a silk hat on a Bradford millionaire. The time is now propitious as he guesses. The meal is ended, she is bored and tired, endeavours to engage her in caresses, which still are unreproved, if undesired. Flushed and decided, he assaults at once, exploring hands encounter, no defence. His vanity requires no response, and makes a welcome of indifference. And I, Tiresias, have forsuffered all enacted on the same divan or bed, I who have sat by Thebes below the wall and walked among the lowest of the dead, bestows one final patronizing kiss and gropes his way, finding the stairs unlit. She turns and looks a moment in the glass, hardly aware of her departed lover. Her brain allows one half-formed thought to pass. Well, now that's done, and I'm glad it's over. When lovely woman stoops to folly and paces about her room again alone, she smooths her hair with automatic hand and puts a record on the gramophone. This music crept by me upon the waters and along the Strand, up Queen Victoria Street. O city, city, I can sometimes hear beside a public bar in Lower Thames Street the pleasant whining of a mandolin and a clatter and a chatter from within, where fishermen lounge at noon, where the walls of Magnus Mater hold inexplicable splendour of Ionian white and gold. The river sweats oil and tar, the barges drift with the turning tide, red sails wide to leeward swing on the heavy spar. The barges wash drifting logs down Greenwich Reach past the Isle of Dogs. Waialala, Leia, Walalala, Laialala. Elizabeth and Leicester beating oars, the stern was formed a gilded shell, red and gold the brisk swell rippled both shores. Southwest wind carried downstream the peal of bells, white towers. Waialala, Leia, Walala, Laialala. Trams and dusty trees, Highbury bore me, Richmond and Kew undid me. By Richmond I raised my knees, supine on the floor of a narrow canoe. My feet are at Moorgate, and my heart under my feet. After the event he wept, he promised a new start. I made no comment. What should I resent? On Margate sands I can connect nothing with nothing. The broken fingernails of dirty hands, my people, humble people who expect nothing. La la. To Carthage then I came, burning, 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 burning. O Lord, thou pluckest me out. O Lord, thou pluckest burning. Chapter 4. Death by Water. Phlebas the Phoenician, a fortnight dead, forgot the cry of gulls and the deep sea swell and the profit and loss. A current under sea picked his bones in whispers. As he rose and fell, he passed the stages of his age and youth, entering the whirlpool. Gentile or Jew, O you who turn the wheel and look to windward, consider Phlebas, who was once handsome and tall as you. Chapter 5. After the torchlight red on sweaty faces, after the frosty silence in the gardens, we've got competition from the bats. Can you hear them? They're in my guava tree, feasting happily. Little buggers. Sorry, I begin again. After the torchlight red on sweaty faces, after the frosty silence in the gardens, after the agony in stony places, the shouting and the crying, prison and palace and reverberation, of thunder of spring over distant mountains, he who was living is now dead. We who were living are now dying, with a little patience. Here is no water, but only rock, rock and no water, and the sandy road, the road winding above among the mountains, which are mountains of rock without water. If there were water, we should stop and drink. Amongst the rock, one cannot stop or think. Sweat is dry and feet are in the sand. If there were only water amongst the rock, dead mountain, mouth of carious teeth that cannot spit. Here one can neither stand, nor lie, nor sit. There is not even silence in the mountains, but dry, sterile thunder without rain. There is not even solitude in the mountains, but red, sullen faces sneer and snarl. From doors of mud-cracked houses, if there were water and no rock, if there were rock and also water, and water, a spring, a pool among the rock, if there were the sound of water only, not the cicada and dry grass singing, but sound of water over a rock where the hermit thrush sings in the pine trees. Drip, drop, drip, drop, 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 drop. But there is no water. Who is the third who walks always beside you? When I count, there are only you and I together. But when I look ahead up the white road, there is always another one walking beside you, gliding wrapped in a brown mantle, hooded. I do not know whether a man or a woman, but who is that on the other side of you? What is that sound high in the air, murmur of maternal lamentation? Who are those hooded hordes swarming over endless plains, stumbling in cracked earth, ringed by the flat horizon only? What is the city over the mountains? Cracks and reforms and bursts in the violet air, falling towers, Jerusalem, Athens, Alexandria, Vienna, London, unreal. A woman drew her long black hair out tight and fiddled whisper music on those strings, and bats with baby faces in the violet light whistled and bet their wings and crawled head downward down a blackened wall and upside down in air were towers tolling reminiscent bells that kept the hours, and voices singing out of empty cisterns and exhausted wells. In this decayed hole among the mountains, in the faint moonlight, the grass is singing over the tumbled graves. About the chapel, there is the empty chapel, only the wind's home. It has no windows, and the door swings. Dry bones can harm no one. Only a cock stood on the roof tree. Cocorico, cocorico, in a flash of lightning, then a damp gust bringing rain. Ganja was sunken, and the limp leaves waited for rain, while the black clouds gathered far distant over Himavant. The jungle crouched, humped in silence, then spoke the thunder. Da, data, What have we given? My friend, blood shaking my heart. The awful daring of a moment's surrender, which an age of prudence can never retract. By this and only this, and this only, we have existed, which is not to be found in our obituaries or in memories draped by the beneficent spider, or under seals broken by the lean solicitor in our empty rooms. Dayadavam, I have heard the key turn in the door once, and turn once only. We think of the key, each in his prison. Thinking of the key, each confirms a prison. Only at nightfall, ethereal rumours revive for a moment a broken Coriolanus. Damyata, the boat responded gaily to the hand expert with sail and oar. The sea was calm. Your heart would have responded gaily when invited, beating obedient to controlling hands. I sat upon the shore, fishing with the arid plain behind me. Shall I at least set my lands in order? London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. Puassa scose nel foco che gliafina quando fia muti Calidon. I hope I pronounced that right, people. I don't think I did. Oh, swallow, swallow, le prince d'Aquitaine à la tour abolie. These fragments I have shored against my ruins. Why then, il fit you, Hieronymo's mad again. Datta, Dayadavam, Damyata, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And there's notes on the Wasteland, but I don't think I will bother to read them to you. They're just of kind of academic explications, and a lot of it is in Latin anyway, so I could have studied Latin at school. If I'd studied Latin at school, I would have been in the top stream. As it was, I was very close to the top stream. I think I was in the second stream back in the day when there was still streams, and let me put it this way, in Wellington Girls College, I was the class dunce in the top class, which, believe me, was not complimentary to be the dumbass surrounded by very, very brilliant but asinine, vicious minds, by the way. Lots and lots of bullying went on, especially since these were the girls that were destined to become scientists and engineers and lawyers and doctors and, the most brilliant minds. And of course, we're all extremely good at maths and science. And while I enjoy science, I've never been very good with mathematics. So I was considered to be the class dumbass. And there was much competition and sneering and I was already deeply traumatized from my fucked up childhood anyway. So there was that. But anyway, it just made me think about that. Latin is, even, especially in my childhood, was a very noble thing to know how to read and speak, being basically, the language from which all languages stem from, including English. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed that reading of The Wasteland. I found it, to be honest, did you see my expressions? Especially the first couple of little chapters there were a bit triggering because art imitating life as it does, talking about living in tents and yes, one of my spawn has been couch surfing for 3 months. It's just completely nuts, since she has plenty of places in her own family circle. I mean, we haven't spoken really since September, but, I have a spare bed here. I would have taken her in a crisis. And my friend Jared has a spare bed. He would have taken her in. And I'm quite certain her father would have taken her in. But no, she chose to couch surf and live in, caravan parks in a tent for 3 months. So I'm actually deeply concerned about that, because that kind of spirit of being overly independent to the point where you stick a needle in your own fucking eye and put yourself in potential danger of actual homelessness is the kind of mentality that is prevalent in our Phillips line, my father's line. My father himself died, he was in a hostel for the last 3 years of his life, but they literally dragged him off the streets as a veritable homeless man and gave him a small independent apartment to live in that was so fucking independent they neglected to take him to hospital with serious kidney stone issues, and therefore he got sepsis and died. So bear in mind, by that stage he was 3 days short of his 89th birthday, and he was indeed elderly and no doubt a bit frail and might have died anyway. But this is what happens when you're homeless and own nothing and are vulnerable and unstable and are not grounded in reality. It puts you in potential danger. And my daughter, at 38 years old, has been living that lifestyle for 3 months, which I find actually quite alarming. But however, we are estranged. She is a grown woman. She has to live by her own life choices, and but it's just completely kind of self-harming behaviour to shit on your mother in her time of need and then run around as a homeless person virtually. It's just bizarre. It's beyond bizarre. So no accidents in the universe that after I was gifted this news this evening about my daughter's instability, apparently now she's finally moved into a place of her own. Thank all the gods, because she's safe now, has her own apartment somewhere, apparently on the north side, but she's all weird, never gives us her address, which is another form of, super independence and kind of instability, because, one's immediate family and closest friend usually knows where you live, or if you haven't been to the actual home, you usually have the fucking address, so that when you need to, you can say, oh yes, my daughter lives in such and such a place, has an actual residence. So it's all very, to my mind, very Phillipsian, reminding me of my father and his quite a few of his family line who were unstable and chaotic, quite frankly mad. It frightens me actually, because My daughter has a brilliant mind, a bit like mine, and is an actor and is highly successful. So I'm trying to work out why she's choosing to live in this chaotic way. Maybe she thinks being an actor that it's cool and bohemian and wildly exciting to be couch surfing and living on the charity of random strangers. But I find it a little bit bizarre. Apparently there's a thunderstorm issued until 9:44 p.m. How delightful. I did see lightning while I was reading to you, and I do love a storm. Chaos and wildness of the natural kind. But however, I'd like both my daughters, who are completely out of my control, by the way, to have equilibrium, safety, success, peace, and true love in their lives. You know, all the things I wish for myself, by the way. But on that note, I'm going to bid you all adieu. I was considering, how far are we in? We're at 51 minutes in. Another wonderful occultist and brilliant mind, and another Irishman too, W.B. Yeats, reading a poem from him. Fuck it, let's do it, babies. I've got time, you know, sitting here alone in my house with my pathetic existence. While I have stability, I also have marginalisation and isolation. So any life, no matter what life you live, there are pros and there are cons. And so I can make myself available to give you wonderful poetry readings while I burn away the last of my gnosis on planet Earth. 7:57 p.m. Let's just pick a poem at random, shall we? I'll close my eyes. Which one? That one. Eek. Very telling, since I've just been to the optometrist. I just heard the spine of my book just snap in half. That wasn't kind. Sorry, book. This is also from my university days. It's got a nice smell to it. I must have put it near some fragrant oil. Another of my modern English literature course. We had to buy all our books when I was 16, going on 17. So here we read. Is that even the beginning of the poem? I've just got to make sure. It's not really quite clear if that's the beginning or the end. I think it is. All right, let us begin. The double vision of Michael Robartes. Robartes? 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 I don't know, close enough. Verse 1. On the grey rock of Cashel, the mind's eye has called up the cold spirits that are born when the old moon is vanished from the sky and the new still hides her horn. Under blank eyes and fingers never still, the particular is pounded till it is man. When had I my own will? Oh, not since life began. Constrained, arraigned, baffled, bent and unbent, by these wire-jointed jaws and limbs of wood, themselves obedient, knowing not evil and good, obedient to some hidden magical breath. They do not feel, so abstract are they, so dead beyond our death, triumph that we obey. Verse 2. On the grey rock of Cashel, I suddenly saw a sphinx with woman breast and lion paw, a Buddha, hand at rest, hand lifted up that blessed. And right between these two, a girl at play, that it may be, had danced her life away. I hear you, sister. For now, being dead, it seemed that she of dancing dreamed. Although I saw it all in the mind's eye, there can be nothing solider till I die. I saw by the moon's light, now at its 15th night, one lashed her tail, her eyes lit by the moon, gazed upon all things known, all things unknown, in triumph of intellect, with motionless head erect. That others' moonlit eyeballs never moved, being fixed on all things loved, all things unloved, yet little peace he had, for those that love are sad. Oh, little did they care who danced between, and little she by whom her dance was seen. She had outdanced thought, body perfection brought. For what but eye and ear silence the mind with the minute particulars of mankind? Mind moved yet seemed to stop, as 'twere a spinning top. In contemplation had those three so wrought upon a moment, and so stretched it out, that they, time overthrown, were dead, yet flesh and bone. Verse 3. I knew that I had seen at last, that girl my unremembering nights hold fast, or else my dreams that fly, if I should rub an eye, and yet in flying fling into my meat a crazy juice that makes the pulses beat, as though I had been undone by Homer's paragon, who never gave the burning town a thought. To such a pitch of folly I am brought, being caught between the pull of the dark moon and the full, the commonness of thought and images that have the frenzy of our western seas. Thereon I made my moan, and after kissed a stone, and after that arranged it in a song, seeing that I, ignorant for so long, had been rewarded thus in Cormac's ruined house. And I'll continue on a little bit more because the next poem is still on that theme. Interesting. From Michael Robartes and the Dancer. Michael Robartes and the Dancer. He. Opinion is not worth a rush in this altarpiece, the knight who grips his long spear so to push that dragon through the fading light, loved the lady, and it's plain the half-dead dragon was her thought, that every morning rose again and dug its claws and shrieked and fought. Could the impossible come to pass, she would have time to turn her eyes, her lover thought, upon the glass, and on the instant would grow wise. She, you mean they argued? He, put it so, but bear in mind your lover's wage is what your looking glass can show, and that he will turn green with rage at all that is not pictured there. She, may I not put myself to college? He, go pluck Athene by the hair, for what mere book can grant a knowledge with an impassioned gravity appropriate to that beating breast, that vigorous thigh, that dreaming eye, and may the devil take the rest. She, and must no beautiful woman be learned like a man? He, Paul Veronese, and all his sacred company, imagined bodies all their days, by the lagoon you love so much, for proud, soft, ceremonious proof that all must come to sight and touch, while Michelangelo's Sistine roof his morning and his night disclose. How sinew that has been pulled tight, or it may be loosened in repose, can rule by supernatural right, yet be but sinew. She, I have heard said there is great danger in the body. He, did God in portioning wine and bread give man his thought or his mere body? She, my wretched dragon is perplexed. He, I have principles to prove me right. It follows from this Latin text that blessed souls are not composite, and that all beautiful women may live in uncomposite blessedness, and lead us to the like, if they will banish every thought, unless the lineaments that please their view, when the long-looking glass is full, even from the foot-sole, think it too. She, they say such different things at school. And I'll end it there, but it was rather potent and interesting and a bit soul nourishing. And I think we shall do this again the next time the muse or the mood inspires me to do so. And on that note, enjoy a wonderful evening, Brisbane, Australia, and the storm that is about to flow positive ions to us and bring sweet, sweet release and passions of the ionic kind, and light the sky and growl into the night air. Thor and Odin doing what they do best, playing lawn bowls. And wherever you are in the space-time continuum, have a wonderful moment in time, my beloved ones. God's bless. Much love. Aroha nui. Greetings from sacred space at Titania's realm.